trying your first fighting game can seem really intimidating. I know that many people look at fighting games sometimes and just think, wow, this seems cool, but I don't know if I'd even like it. And so it's always a recurring topic to say, how do you get into them? Where do you start if you like them, you know? We're not talking about stuff like Smash. Those are platform fighters, they're a bit different, and they're a lot easier to get into. Why are they easier to get into then, right? That's a solid question. Well, there's a multitude of reasons. Stuff like a pre-existing property from where the characters are from really helps. This is what gets people into Smash. Or the ability to play the game more casually as well. Like Smash, you know, are definitely things that help. But these are things that are difficult to fit into a traditional fighting game a lot of the time, or that don't necessarily appeal to everyone. So what I want to talk about is one specific game, which is just about to come out on console. It's 2XKO. It's been in early access for a few months now, only on PC. And by the time this video comes out, it's either coming out like in a day or two, or maybe it's even out already on consoles. And so I think this is the perfect time to make a video about it. It's a game I've been enjoying for a little while, and I have a lot of thoughts about. But more specifically, I think its new player experience is quite possibly the best of any fighting game ever. And I want to go over why. For those who don't know, 2XKO is a 2v2 tag fighter by Riot Games, and it uses the League of Legends characters. But honestly, if you don't like League of Legends, or even Arcane, you know, their big series, I wouldn't worry too much. This game is definitely worth playing even if you don't really care about the characters, and honestly the character designs have never been the reason to not play League of Legends. So don't worry about that. 2XKO honestly is pretty intimidating at a first glance. It's a tag fighter. Tag fighters are known to be very chaotic and very fast. They don't seem, you know, like they're going to be incredible for a new player, because it can be really hard to keep track of what's going on sometimes and have fun as a beginner. Despite that, I think 2XKO is the best game to jump in and try fighting games if you felt too intimidated to do so in the past, and we'll go over why in this video. There's a few things that have been tried by a variety of fighting games to make the beginner experience better over the years. These have had some success, but have never been able to truly capture that audience that thinks fighting games are kind of cool to either watch or in general, but are too scared to try them themselves. To me, the main things that have been tried are two things. The first one is not forcing players to use motion inputs in some way. Games like Street Fighter 6, for example, have added an extra control scheme that is completely optional and, you know, allows you to do special moves without having to do motion inputs. No quarter circles or whatever. Other games instead just remove motion inputs entirely. Another element often used is having auto combos in the game. Auto combos is basically just you can mash a button and a combo happens. Ideally it ends in a super as well. Auto combos are perfect because they allow new players to do cool shit on day one. The downside of auto combos is that many developers don't get that they have to be optional and that they have to be suboptimal, or they can really annoy experienced players, because either it'll get in the way of them doing what they want to do by accidentally starting an auto combo if it can't be turned off, or if it's optimal, no one really wants to play a game at high level where you're just mashing buttons. Both of these features are in 2XKO, and I think their implementation is pretty good. The game doesn't have any motion inputs, but it's designed from the ground up to not have motion inputs, so there is no balancing issue with giving access to moves that would normally take motions and, you know, giving access to them instantly or something. That's not an issue in this game because the game is designed around having no motion inputs. It's not going to be the preferred way to do this for everyone, but the game has plenty of depth elsewhere anyways. The game also has auto combos. They're completely optional and they're suboptimal, which is perfect. They're easy to turn off, they're not intrusive as you don't want them. Perfect way to do them. While these two features are good for new players, they're not what I want to talk about here. I'm just going over these to talk about the history of trying to make a game more new player friendly. Features like auto combos, honestly, they're kind of expected these days, especially in a game where combos are really important, like 2XKO, where most of your damage will come from big combos. I don't think having these two features would ever be enough on their own for me to call a game the best fighting game for beginners. What I actually want to talk are two more features that are present in 2XKO that are completely revolutionary. First of those features, okay, I lied, it's not that revolutionary. It's not insane. What is insane is that 2XKO is one of so few fighting games to specifically do this. I'm talking about making the game fully free to play. Obviously that's not revolutionary in gaming as a whole, but it's very rare in fighting games. And it's particularly important to have a fighting game or two like this out there, because a major barrier to trying out fighting games for new players is that they're so goddamn expensive. Basically, fighting games are almost always full-priced games when they come out on release. And then they also charge money for each new character. Getting the full roster for a fighting game that's been out for a while can be really expensive. We're talking over $100. Or if it's brand new, then you'll also have to just pay full price for the game anyways. That's a big step for a lot of people. When the genre is intimidating in the first place, and you have maybe fears that you might not be able to pick it up well enough to get decent enough to have a good time, well, it's a big ask to ask people to pay that much money. 2XKO removes that barrier entirely. You can literally just download it and give it a shot, on your PC or on your console in a few days. No commitment necessary. You can literally just delete the game after 20 minutes if you hated it. That is a big deal in this space. The game also allows players to unlock every character for free, and it takes a reasonable amount of time to do so, which is great. This isn't like mobile game free to play. This is proper game free to play. But being free is definitely not revolutionary in gaming by any means. Sure, it's rare for fighting games, but again, this is an element that's not enough on its own, but it pairs really well with the other element I want to talk about. 2XKO is really innovative because it has an incredible answer to the biggest barrier, in my opinion, to getting into fighting games. That's the friend experience. What do I mean by the friend experience? Well, how do you normally get into a new competitive game, or a new online game of some sort? For a lot of people, that's through friends. If you have a friend that plays a fighting game that isn't 2XKO, right, who likes to play Street Fighter, for example, and they want to get you into the game, well, normally in a game you'd, play together. That's how you get into games. Well, if you want to play together with a friend who plays Street Fighter or any other fighting game out there, the only way to play with each other is to literally fight each other. This is terrible for new players because obviously the experienced player is going to completely stomp the new player. Let me put it like this. Imagine if your friend was trying to get you into Counter-Strike and you'd barely played shooters before, much less a tactical shooter, and then the only way you could play with each other was 1v1s. You would immediately uninstall the game after like 10 minutes of getting your head blown off, and you would never touch the game again, and that would be completely reasonable. 2XKO solves this issue by doing something really cool. It's a tag fighter, so normally you control two characters while fighting someone else who's controlling two characters. That's normally how a tag fighter would work. But 2XKO adds an extra feature where you can play with two players on each team. Each player on a team can control a single character and be on a team. This is great. 2XKO lets you team up with a friend and not have to fight each other. You can get a friend to download the game for free and then play together as a team while you help them get better. Losses feel way less terrible because you're alongside a friend and there's not as much pressure and there's, you won't get humiliated by getting messed up. You don't have to fear that your friends are going to beat you up the whole time. Trying to get a friend into a fighting game is really hard because it involves a ton of commitment. 2XKO removes all the barriers that make that commitment completely mandatory to have any fun. You can ask a friend to come play with you for free, and they don't have to learn any motion inputs to do moves at all. They don't have to learn combos if they don't want to. They can just mash buttons with auto combos on and have cool shit happen. They don't even have to get stomped by you because now you're on their team. This is the perfect environment for new players. In my opinion, people don't actually avoid fighting games because they're harder than other games of other genres. They avoid them because fighting games make it hard to take that first step. Getting someone in the door is the hardest part, but I truly believe that fighting games are not harder to learn than other games. For example, the ridiculous amount of knowledge you need to play a MOBA like League of Legends or Deadlock is honestly just as, if not way more difficult to learn than a fighting game. I truly believe that anyone who tries a fighting game and is allowed to not get stomped immediately and have some fun as a beginner has the ability to learn it and have a lot of fun if they decide they want to get better or not. The main barrier for beginners is getting in the door, and 2XKO is the best fighting game at making it easy to get in the door. So give it a try. The game's really fun, has a ton of cool stuff you can do. And very importantly, the game has a ton of depth too, so the game only gets more fun as you get better at it. Final thing I want to talk about is that, sure, this game gets you in the door well, but I think it's also very good at including great tools for you to progress from complete beginner to doing a ton of cool shit. Sure, getting in the door is the most important, but you do need tools to move on from there. This game has a system called the Fuse system, which basically changes how your two characters on your team interact. And it's a perfect example of this. Two of these fuses, Juggernaut and Sidekick, allow you to pick a single character instead of two when you're playing alone, which is great for learning. When you're not playing with your friend anymore and you want to practice some stuff or just play some games alone, you don't have to immediately start playing two characters if you don't want to. You can decide to only ever play a single character your whole time playing this game, which is great. It's also great for practicing a new character without having to, worry about how you're playing your other one as well. The game also has decent tutorials, but more importantly, very good combo trials. So you can get a good idea of what's possible on your character if you're trying to, mess around and figure out your own combos. The training mode is also really, really good in this game, which is awesome. Honestly, I've spent a frankly stupid amount of time in the training mode, just hours and hours of messing around with my characters, trying to figure out the limits of what is possible with my team. And that's an experience a lot of fighting game players can relate to, but you don't have to do this, obviously. It's just a nice bonus. And the game also has a great community with many guides out there. So when in doubt, just turn to YouTube. I'm sure someone out there has made a video about the basic combos for your character, the basic idea of how you win neutral, the basic idea of what you want to do on this character, or how you play this game at all. And another great thing is it's getting great developer support. Sure, the esports side is important, but not that much. It is there, but not that much to the average player. But the devs are also pretty great about, supporting the game with updates and all that, and keeping it free, obviously, always helps. And they're very involved in the community, which is great. So honestly, give this game a shot if fighting games interest you, or if you maybe even have a friend who pesters you to try them all the time. Because honestly, there's no commitment necessary. You can just delete the game if it's shit, If you have any interest in a tag fighter, obviously this is the best jump-in point for you for fighting games entirely. But even if you don't really like the idea of a tag fighter, or of a fighting game that can be fast and chaotic, you might think it wouldn't be for you. But the game is completely free, so might as well give it a shot, though. Hey everyone, sorry for not making a video for a while. Got busy for a while there with the holidays and everything. And I've been meaning to make a video about this game for a while, so I'm glad to get it out finally. As always, I don't know. Maybe tell me, in the comments why you think a different game is better for new players, because there's definitely going to be diverging opinions on this game. This game can get really hard at high level, so I'm sure some people have opinions that are different from mine. Outside of that, yeah, I would appreciate a sub, I guess, but otherwise you should definitely get out of here, because I don't believe in outros, so the fact that you've listened to this one for so long kind of worries me, and I think you should go do something better with your time. Honestly, anything. Get out of here.